Welcome back to One Piece in a Review, episode number 64, and this is reviewing the 851st episode of the anime. The man with a bounty of a billion, the strongest general Katakuri, and the 950 chapter of the manga, Bakura Town. Let's first start with, like I always do, with the newest episode of the anime. This one adapts pages 2 through 13. I think it's 213, correct? It could be. Just wanted to be sure about that. It is, when I get it up here, two through 14. Yep. So pretty much, yeah, 2 to 14 of this very chapter, chapter 879. Yeah, it looks like it adapts all but the last 3 pages. So yeah, almost the entire chapter. I'm not surprised they started in this particular chapter this episode because last episode just finished adapting chapter 878. So my guess is next episode would probably adapt the last 3 pages and probably pages, I'd say 2 through, probably also 2 to 13 as well. It's a possibility. Mostly put, this particular episode, kind of like the arc, basically splits into 3 different areas. Of basically, it's like 3 stories in one at this point. From this point forward, up until toward the end of the very arc, there are 3 different things happening. First, let's start with the Straw Hat crew. They just got away from Big Mom's fleet, and Chopper and Brook are informed of the death of Pedro from about 2 episodes back, and the reaction. I'm not very surprised that Brook would react that way. Very upset because they show like a flashback of the awesome stuff that he and Pedro did when the arc first started. Excuse me, and well, he is upset because they did spend a amount of time with him. Chopper, I'm a little bit surprised he got upset as he did, but Brook and Carrot makes perfect sense because Carrot practically was raised by Pedro, and she kind of looked up to him, sort of like a second, kind of like a father figure / big brother. That's basically how she viewed him. And Luffy, of course, already knew about it. He was shocked as well. And of course, in the last episode, he dragged Katakuri to Mirror World, and Broly. By the way, Broly is seen, you see her briefly at the beginning, and she's laying down the whole episode. She isn't popping in for quite some time. Yeah, but I'll get to Luffy versus Katakuri. But then, of course, Jamie tells him just cool down and focus on trying to get out of here. And of course, they all go various positions. Of course, Chopper goes to one of his points that he does, and then Carrot spots the fleet. Is like spots the fleet at 6:00. Yeah, it's the direction basically they're going. It's basically right behind them, and Jinbei's like, I thought it'd take a little longer to get here, and then Carrot is seeing something really weird, and it's Big Mom, and she thinks she's walking on water, and Gina points out that's impossible, and she takes a little closer look. She's actually walking on candy, and Nami points out that there's only one person who can do this, and she doesn't say his name, but it's Pedros. Yeah, and he has grown. He's used his candy to grow a replacement arm that was destroyed in the last about 2 episodes back, and he talks briefly to Napoleon, and his appearance in this episode is a quick 2-minute thing. When they had the whole thing of Nami informing Brook and Chopper of Pedro's death, this is like a sequence that lasts for about 4 minutes of nothing but music. There's no dialogue for about, I'd say about 3 to 5 minutes. It lasts for a good while. Yep. And then of course they try to go away, try to prepare, and then now let's cut to, then of course we have the stuff with Sanjay, Pudding, and Clifton, who are going to Coco Island, and they actually just arrived. Of course they talk, and Pudding, who's in a wedding dress, decides to hide underneath the rug, but basically in the part where it rolls, because she doesn't want the public to know that think it'd be like good, be bad luck, even though that uh, Sanji himself has already seen putting in her wedding dress. And I know this is kind of a tradition in Japan where the bride and groom do see each other before the ceremony. Here, on the other hand, that's not the case because we view that as bad luck if the groom sees the bride before the ceremony happens, or at least in the wedding dress on the day of the wedding. In Japan, this, as far as I can tell, a tradition of theirs, and it's not exactly a really big problem with it over there. Yeah, this is what I've heard exactly is the tradition over there. I've how a traditional Japanese wedding goes, though from what I've seen of Japanese weddings, especially depicted in the film You Only Live Twice, that they dress in traditional Japanese attire for these weddings, and I know for a fact that the film itself got heavy praise for an accurate recreation of a Japanese wedding, even though it was a bogus wedding. But the people who made this film, basically, Eon Productions got praised for accurately recreating an actual Japanese wedding, and that's the only thing I can think of when I think of a Japanese style wedding. Is that particular film, because it's the only film I've actually seen where in live action we actually have a traditional Japanese wedding. The only other thing I've seen of that loosely like that is happened in the final episode of Naruto Shippuden, when Naruto and Naruto walk off to get married, and they're actually in the same room together prior to getting married. They also there was one other series I've seen this in. This was actually an OVA for Rashura Kenshin, where they have the main character marry his longtime love interest they had throughout the entire series, who her apprentice kept calling ugly anyways, where they got married and had a kid. Yep. Now that part was never shown in the actual manga. That was made up for the OVA. So I've seen like not many weddings in OVA in Japanese anime. Yeah, it's not very many. I've seen maybe about 3. I'd say about 2 or 3. It's not something you see very often in anime. Is a wedding. It's something that's always shown a lot in live action stuff. Excuse me, like in a lot of live action TV series, they've shown weddings. In movies, yeah, there's some movies even heavily basically where the main plot is about a wedding. But in the case of anime, I haven't seen that many, but I know for a fact there have been other series that have featured actual weddings in the actual series during either in the final episode or during the course of the series. Yep. And then let's talk about the fight between Luffy and Katakuri. I gotta say, for the first episode to feature this, it's really good. I enjoy it. And Luffy starts off how he normally starts off, even though he's using Haki this time. You know, originally, prior to the events of Sabaody, he didn't use Haki that much. He was trained Armored Haki during the 2-year time skip. So, yeah, he starts with no Gum, like, jet pistol, twin jet pistols, jet bazooka, Eagle Bazooka. He even goes like Gear 2 for a while, and then the episode ends with him biting his thumb, and those who have watched the anime for long to know that when he does that, that means he's doing one thing. He's going to Gear 3. Yep. And this is also the first time he's ever gone to Gear 3 in this entire arc. He's gone to Gear 4 at least. At this point in time in the anime, he's only gone to Gear 4 at least 3 times over the course of the entire series. Twice against one of the Sweet Generals, and at least once against Big Mom. In the case of this particular arc overall, Luffy went to Gear 4 at least, I'd say, about 5 times. Yeah, in the whole saga, it was 5 times. But in the anime, it's only shown the first 3. The last 2 have not been shown yet. They're probably going to be shown in a future episode. Yeah. And the battle itself is very well handled. Like, Luffy smashing it like crazy. And, of course, Katakuri is dodging stuff. And those of you curious to, like, how long does this fight go on for? This fight goes on to, like, about chapter, like, I think it was, like, 8, 7, 8, at least either, I think it ended around 8, 892, 893. Yeah, this goes on for a good like uh 14, 15 chapters. This is a very long fight. Not unusual for fights to last this long. As far as I know the fight between Luffy and Doflamingo, this fight lasted for a good about the same amount of time, about 15 episodes. Yeah, it lasted for a very good period of time. So, I would not be surprised if somehow the fight itself would do this. Now, one thing I would not be surprised if, in fact, they did this for the anime, where they had one episode comprised of the entire fight between Luffy and Katakuri, taken from all the chapters of the entire arc up until Katakuri's defeat, and then have a whole episode focused on the stuff with the Straw Hat crew and of course stuff with Sanji. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I have seen this once, if I remember correctly. They have done this where they intersplice stuff in the same thing. The only show I've actually seen was actually in Seven Deadly Sins, where they have two arcs for a series of episodes. This one I would not be surprised at that, but knowing how the series works, they're probably just going to adapt the way the manga presented. They're not going to have the whole sequence happen in just about 2 or 3 episodes, because the fight itself lasts for a very good period of time, and plus you have to keep cutting back to something. So even though they could do that, the animators, which basically are the Toei Animation, probably would not do that. But this overall was a really good episode and a good advance in the plot for the episode for the arc. Oh, in case you're wondering how many chapters left to go after they finish this one, roughly about 23 chapters to go. Now to talk about the newest chapter of the manga, which is chapter number 800, at least 915. First off with the cover story, where it's Bellamy looks like he's making up a new pirate flag. Yeah, that's what the first page is. And then we cut to the sumo wrestler. By the way, he's the main villain of this whole entire chapter. He appears a good chunk of it too, and there's tons of dialogue with him. There's also a new character called Mouse Man. Yeah, Mouse Man, where he literally has mouse ears. That's not a joke, he really does. Yeah, he does. We spent a good amount of time on him, and we cut to the little girl who we met at the beginning of the arc, who's being intimidated by one of the customers. Who looks like he has a lion attached to his belt, well, a lion's head, anyways, and she's like getting scared of him. And of course, the lion looks like the lion wakes up, and of course he's knocked over. And then we see Luffy, Zoro, and the woman they met in the previous chapter. Looks like they arrived in this particular town. They just arrived, and of course they run into the sumo wrestler from a couple chapters back. They talk to him for a good while. Yeah, they don't really understand. Of course, they send the guys after him, and then pretty much we pretty much see a sort of a fight between what it looks like that the woman he's trying to marry, who also chopped up his top of thing, his little ponytail. A lot of samurai fiction known for having this, and she chops it off, and Luffy's like, "That's so cool!" It's like Katakuri is so cool. It's wrestling. It's getting wrestling. It's getting interesting now. Instead of calling the boss out. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, the fact that the woman he wanted to marry from 2 chapters back chops off his ponytail. I thought that was so funny. But yeah, even though we spent a lot of time focusing on the whole chapter's focused on this sumo wrestler, and mostly put, he's just a big yapper. Yeah. As for why he wants to marry this woman, no idea. Well, mostly this, and she mentioned this before she fight him. Apparently, he makes decisions without informing anybody. Like, She's like, even though she didn't say yes, even though she didn't say yes or no to his question, he's like, yeah, she's gonna marry me. Yeah, which I do agree with the character. This guy is completely stupid, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got butt handed to him by the woman he wanted to marry so badly. I'm also hoping Luffy and Zoro beat up his thugs. Yeah, because they were okay, but it's all about sumo wrestling. Yeah, that's the whole point of this chapter. Sumo wrestling. Challenge to fight, stuff like that, but yeah. But it's a pretty good chapter, I gotta say. No, we'll talk about the chapter briefly, but mostly just about a lot of guys talking. Nothing big, interesting happened, aside from, well, the fight at the end. And Luffy and Zoro didn't really appear in this chapter very much because the whole chapter is focused on the sumo wrestler. And it looks like maybe he's going to admit defeat at the start of the next chapter because he lost the signature thing. I'm trying to remember. It's something the samurai known for having. I think it's called a tapo. I think it's called. Yeah, I've seen like some Japanese movies that I've watched. Yeah, I've actually watched some Japanese live action films in black and white. I've watched a few of them, and they do feature samurai, and they do have this little ponytail on top. I think it's called a tapo. I think it's called. Yeah, it's something that a samurai has to note. It's one of the few things to note that this person is a samurai. Not just because they have the swords, but because they have this little ponytail on top of their head. Yeah, that's so they signify that they are in fact a samurai. As why sumo wrestler has it, I have no idea because a lot of sumo wrestlers in fiction I've seen generally don't have that. Their hair is pretty neatly trimmed. The only other series I've seen that features a sumo wrestler was an episode of Shura Kenshin. Yeah, they actually had a good like 1 or 2 episodes focused on it, and the fact that they mentioned that I think her name was Keiko of the series. I think I remember her name. Yeah, the main character's love interest. She points out though that their philosophy is similar to that of sumo wrestling. So she was able to train him to be a proper sumo wrestler, and he was back into a stable, even though he got briefly kicked out, but he was taken back into the stable no problem. Because she spoke to the leader of the stable, he had no problem with him being retrained. Yeah, but he was a lot better of a character than this piece of crap of a character was. But I have nothing against Oda. I'm hoping this guy, I think the way the guy is written, he's written to be despised. And Oda succeeded. I don't care for this character at all. But I just thought it was so hilarious the way it ended with... Now, you don't see as much in Japanese anime where a lot of time women take control or actually are very strong women basically who wield a sword and actually, do something like this. The only other series I've seen where a woman is picked to be very strong like this, do something like this, is a series I'm going to review tomorrow. You'll be surprised which one it is. And, of course, in Fairy Tail with the character Urza. Yep. Yeah, this character is known for using swords anyways. And she's like an RPG character. Requip! Yeah. Alright, so, what do I give this chapter? I'm going to give this chapter roughly a 9 out of 10. It's okay up until the very end. Yep. But I kind of wanted, though, for this particular arc, for this particular chapter, that maybe at some point... Now, I think they did say they're looking for Taima, which it could be Nico Robin. I'm not really sure, but I kind of do want Luffy to reunite with more members of the crew besides just Zoro. I mean, he just met with Zoro just 2 chapters back, and I'm like, that's it? That's all he's met with so far? I mean, there's still many members of his crew. I mean, I know Jinbei's now in Wano. I know the rest of his crew is, and Luffy's got to find them. He's got to find at least about... I'd say about 8 more people. He's still got to find Nami, Chopper, Brook, Frankie, Carrot. Am I forgetting one? Oh yeah, Robin. So it's just Nami, Chopper, Robin, Frankie, Carrot, Brook. I think that's it. Yeah, and also for some reason, Chopper Galar decided like showing at the end of the last chapter. This chapter, he's nowhere to be seen at all. Which I'm like, that's a little weird because 2 chapters back, we saw his talking. We saw his navigator show up, and then at the end of the last chapter, we saw him himself, which first time we've seen him since since it's the Zoo Island arc. And this chapter, we don't see return of any other characters, which is a little weird, to say at least. After having about 3 or 4 chapters of something like be interesting, this one, it was so interesting. I still kind of liked it. I really did. All right. So that's really it this particular review. Stay tuned for tomorrow. I'm going to review the special. Yes, the special that came out today. Yep, which is actually the 13th OVA the series has had. And it's interesting, though, the fact that they readapted the Skypiea arc, which I'm looking forward to seeing what changes they made to it. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it tomorrow, and I'm gonna do my review of that and of the show I'm gonna finish in the first season of, hopefully today. Okay, but until we see you on our next review, bye.